There's a kind of strength that doesn't show up in your muscles or your bank account. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't crumble under pressure. And when people encounter it, they don't always know what to call it. But they feel it. It's the quiet power of a strong mind. A mind that doesn't react, it responds. A mind that can sit in discomfort without flinching. A mind that knows who it is, even when the world tries to tell it otherwise. We live in a noisy world. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone's offended. Everyone's running, scrolling, reacting. But what if you moved differently? What if you became the kind of person whose mind was so steady, so resilient, so deeply grounded, that it actually unsettled people? Not in an aggressive way, but in a way that quietly says, I'm not shaken by your noise. I don't need your approval. I know who I am, and I'm not here to prove it. That's what we're building today. Because the truth is, most people don't need more money, more productivity hacks, or more hustle. What they need is a mind that can withstand life. A mind that can filter criticism, navigate uncertainty, hold space for pain, delay gratification, and still keep moving forward with clarity, courage, and conviction. You don't build that kind of mind overnight, but you can build it. And when you do, something shifts. You stop chasing people who don't see your worth. You stop avoiding the work that scares you. You stop getting pulled into every argument, every trigger, every wave of anxiety. You become a fortress. Not cold, not numb, not distant. Just anchored, present, clear. And that kind of presence, it's rare, it's powerful, and yes, it scares people. Because people are used to drama. They're used to reactivity. They're used to others bending, pleasing, breaking under pressure. But when they meet someone who doesn't fold, someone who stays calm in chaos, someone who can't be manipulated by guilt or flattery or fear, they don't know what to do with that. That's the kind of mind we're going to build. In this video, we'll explore 5 deep, practical ways to build a mind so strong. It quietly changes every room you walk into. No ego, no hype. Just you learning to trust your own inner ground more than anything outside of you. Let's begin. 1. One of the fastest ways to weaken your mind is to constantly seek validation. To explain yourself. To justify every decision. To soften your truth so others feel comfortable. But here's the truth most people never tell you. Strong minds are often misunderstood. Not because they're unkind. Not because they're arrogant. But because they operate from a deeper clarity, and most people haven't met themselves at that level yet. When you start thinking differently, when you set boundaries, when you stop playing by everyone else's emotional rules, people will react. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant. They'll accuse you of being cold, selfish, or too serious. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've stopped being predictable. Why this matters? Most people don't want truth. They want agreement. They want you to match their emotional tone, to share their insecurities, to shrink when they shrink, to doubt yourself so they feel more secure in their own uncertainty. But when you refuse to play that game, when you start standing calmly in your own perspective, making choices without needing to be applauded for them, saying no without offering a 10-paragraph explanation, that unsettles people. And if your mind isn't strong, you'll cave. You'll explain yourself endlessly. You'll over-apologize. You'll start questioning whether your clarity is actually arrogance. And before you know it, you'll be back where you started, doubting yourself just to keep the peace. A strong mind understands. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Your truth is not up for debate. Other people's discomfort is not your emergency. Silence is sometimes more powerful than explanation. The moment you realize you can survive someone else's misunderstanding, you become free. Free from people-pleasing. Free from emotional manipulation. Free from the exhausting need to be liked. Because here's the secret. You don't owe the world your softness to be valid. You don't owe it constant access to your energy. You don't owe it watered-down versions of your truth. You owe yourself authenticity. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself the right to think clearly, even if others never understand why. A quiet power. The strongest minds aren't the loudest. They're the ones that can hold space for judgment without reacting. Walk away from misunderstanding without resentment. Say less and mean more. And when you master that, you stop being controlled by public opinion. You start building a life that's true, not performative. And you finally learn how to breathe in your own clarity, no matter who doesn't get it. Get comfortable being misunderstood. It's the tuition for living a life that's truly yours. 2. We're living in the most distracted era in human history. Notifications, news, noise, everyone competing for your attention, every app engineered to hijack your brain. And yet, here's what no one tells you. Your ability to focus is now a superpower. Not just to be productive, but to be present, to think deeply, to see clearly, to move forward without being pulled in 100 directions. If you want to build a mind so strong it scares people, start here. Learn to control your focus. Because a distracted mind is a fragile mind. It reacts instead of responds. It consumes instead of creates. It forgets who it is in the chaos of everyone else's noise. Why focus is strength? Focus is about ownership of your attention. It's the quiet ability to say, I don't need to respond right now. I don't need to know everything that's happening in the world this second. I don't need to scroll until I feel numb again. I choose what I feed my mind. Focus gives you clarity. Clarity gives you direction. Direction gives you power. It's the opposite of mental weakness. Not because you know more than everyone else, but because you're not scattered like everyone else. And in a world where most people can't finish a paragraph without checking their phone, a focused person stands out like a beam of light in a storm. How to train it? Start small, but start daily. 10 minutes of reading without distraction. 20 minutes of work with your phone in another room. Journaling your thoughts before you open any apps. Sitting in silence for 5 minutes a day to let your thoughts settle. Creating one focused, deep work block a day. No multitasking, no interruptions. It's not about perfection, it's about practice. Because focus is a muscle. Use it or lose it. Every time you resist the urge to switch tasks, you're rewiring your brain. Every time you finish something you started, you're building integrity. Every time you choose presence over distraction, you're strengthening your mind. What people fear? People aren't scared of intelligence. They're scared of clarity. When you're deeply focused, people can't manipulate you with urgency. They can't pull you into emotional spirals. They can't throw you off with noise because your mind is grounded, anchored, aimed. Focused people are calm. Not because life is easy for them, but because they've chosen what matters, and they're willing to ignore everything else. Final truth. Distraction is not just a productivity issue. It's a spiritual one, because what you give your attention to shapes who you become. So if you want to build a mind that radiates strength, the kind of strength that confuses people, intrigues them, and inspires quiet respect, start by guarding your focus like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. 3. Most people are taught how to solve problems, but almost no one is taught how to sit with them. They want quick fixes, easy answers, something to numb the pain or fast forward through the discomfort. But if you want a mind that's truly powerful, not reactive, not performative, but grounded and undeniable, you need to develop something most people avoid. Emotional endurance, the ability to feel without fleeing, to hurt without hiding, to stay present when everything in you wants to escape. Because here's the truth, resilience isn't built in comfort. It's built in the moments you want to run away but choose to stay. What emotional endurance looks like. It's not dramatic. It's not about suppressing your feelings or pretending everything's okay. It's about capacity. Can you feel sadness without needing to distract yourself with entertainment or dopamine? Can you feel anxiety without numbing it with food, noise, or endless scrolling? Can you feel anger and stay in control? Can you feel fear and still move forward? That's the kind of strength that changes everything because it puts you back in the driver's seat. You stop being controlled by your feelings and start moving with them, not against them. Why this matters? A weak mind crumbles under discomfort. It avoids hard conversations. It gives into emotional outbursts. It chooses short-term relief over long-term peace. But a strong mind, it knows how to hold tension, to feel the full weight of an emotion, and still make a wise decision. This is how powerful people are made. They don't avoid pain. They outgrow the need to run from it. And every time you stay present in discomfort, you expand your capacity to lead, love, and live fully. Training emotional endurance. Like physical endurance, this takes practice. Start by noticing your emotional triggers instead of reacting to them. When you feel something uncomfortable, breathe into it instead of fleeing. Journal your emotions instead of suppressing them. Sit in silence and let your feelings rise and fall without fixing or fleeing. Learn to name your emotion instead of becoming it. One of the most underrated emotional skills is simply saying to yourself, "This is uncomfortable, but I can handle it." Say it often enough and your nervous system will start to believe you. The result? You stop panicking at every wave of discomfort. You stop making fear-based decisions. You stop needing the world to feel safe before you take your next step. And instead, you become that rare person who walks through fire calmly. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because you've built the capacity to walk anyway. That scares people, because most are ruled by emotion. But you've learned to carry it, not collapse under it. That's strength. That's power. That's peace. 4. We often confuse being alone with being lonely. But solitude isn't emptiness. It's presence. It's clarity. It's the sacred space where noise dies and truth finally has room to speak. A strong mind doesn't just tolerate solitude, it needs it. Because in a world constantly pulling you in 100 directions, you'll never hear your own voice if you're always tuned into everyone else's. If you want a mind so steady, so centered, so powerful that it unnerves people, learn to be alone without needing to fill the silence. That's where the real work begins. Why solitude matters. Solitude exposes everything. When the noise fades, you're left with only your thoughts, your regrets, your questions, your fears, your intuition. That's why so many avoid it. They'd rather stay distracted than face themselves. They fear the silence because they're not sure what lies in it. But here's what they don't know. Solitude isn't where you lose yourself. It's where you meet yourself. It's where you strip away the roles, the masks, the performances, and finally come face to face with who you really are. The power of being alone. When you make peace with solitude, you stop chasing company just to avoid yourself. You make decisions from clarity, not pressure. You learn what you believe, not what others think you should. You find the strength to walk away, even if no one follows. You create instead of consume. Solitude is how you sharpen your mind's edge. It's how you hear your intuition. It's where creativity, vision, and courage are born. The world might teach you to fear being alone, but the strongest minds know being alone is a luxury, not a punishment. How to practice it? Start small but intentional. Take silent walks without music or podcasts. Spend 15 minutes a day in complete stillness. Journal your thoughts instead of venting them online. Travel solo, even if it's just to a park or cafe. Turn your phone off for an hour and just be. At first, it might feel empty. You might even feel restless or anxious. But keep going, because beneath the restlessness is gold. A deeper self, a clearer voice, a more anchored mind. And once you've made peace with being alone, no one can weaponize loneliness against you. You become emotionally self-sufficient, rooted, solid, untouchable in the ways that matter most. And that's the kind of strength that shakes people. Because most people are terrified of silence, terrified of being unseen, terrified of not being chosen. But you've learned to choose yourself. To sit in the quiet and find not fear, but freedom. That kind of mind? It's rare. It's powerful. And yes, it scares people. 5. We live in a culture addicted to urgency. Quick wins, fast likes, overnight success, shortcuts, instant gratification. And if you're not careful, that energy will pull you into a cycle where everything feels like an emergency. But if you want to build a mind that stands out, calm, clear, quietly intimidating, you need to learn one of the most underrated powers of all. The ability to delay gratification, to zoom out, to play the long game, to move like someone who isn't chasing today's applause because they're building tomorrow's freedom. Why this is rare? Most people make decisions from the perspective of their current mood. They quit because it's hard today. They spend because they want to feel good now. They abandon goals because progress isn't visible yet. They scroll instead of build because building is boring and scrolling is easy. But that's not how strong minds think. Strong minds are strategic. They see the long arc. They understand that the harvest doesn't come in the same season as the planting. And while everyone else is obsessed with results, they fall in love with the process. This is how long-term thinkers move. They save money now to buy freedom later. Read now to think better for life. Work on skills for months, even if no one's watching. Build small, consistent habits instead of chasing life hacks. Say no to distractions that feel good short-term but steal energy long-term. They aren't smarter. They just have discipline. They're not reactive. They're oriented toward the future. And in a society that wants everything now, that kind of patience looks radical. It looks scary to people who live at the mercy of their impulses. Think about this. Would you rather look successful for a year or be successful for decades? Would you rather feel good today? Or build something that lets you feel free every day? These are the questions that rewire your brain. Because once you start thinking long-term, you stop comparing your chapter 2 to someone's chapter 20. You stop measuring your worth by what others see. You stop making decisions from panic, pressure, or pride. You start building differently. You start respecting time. You start trusting the slow growth. You start crafting a life that's solid, not just shiny. The scary part? People won't understand you. They'll think you're too serious, too focused, too obsessed, because most people are sprinting toward applause. And you're walking deliberately toward peace. That scares them, because they can't figure out how you're so calm, so steady, so unmoved by the chaos around you. But that's the power of long-term thinking. It makes your mind a mountain. And while everyone else is chasing clouds, you've already built your sky. We've walked through 5 ways to build a mind so strong, it unsettles people. Not because it's loud, not because it's aggressive, but because it's unshakable. Let's remember what we've uncovered together. You learn to get comfortable being misunderstood, because clarity often looks like arrogance to the confused. You learn to train your focus like a muscle, because attention is your greatest currency in a world desperate to steal it. You learn to practice emotional endurance, because power isn't in suppressing your emotions, it's in feeling them fully without being controlled by them. You learn to make peace with solitude, because when you know how to stand alone, no one can make you feel small again. And you learn to think long-term in a world obsessed with now, because a real strength doesn't chase comfort, it chases legacy. This isn't about being untouchable. It's about being unavailable to the noise, chaos, and confusion that keeps most people stuck. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't crumble under criticism, doesn't panic under pressure, and doesn't shrink to fit into spaces you've outgrown. That kind of mind? It's rare, it's quiet, it's terrifying, not because it threatens anyone, but because it reveals what's possible. It shows people what they could be if they stopped betraying themselves for comfort. And yes, some will be inspired, some will be intimidated, some will pull away because your calm forces them to confront their chaos. Let them. You weren't meant to bend for every storm. You were meant to become the mountain that storms can't move. So now the question becomes, will you keep shrinking your mind to stay relatable? Or will you strengthen it so fiercely it's that even silence speaks? Because real power isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. That's the kind of strength the world needs more of. Not louder voices, but clearer ones. Not harder hearts, but deeper roots. You don't have to rush. You don't have to prove. You just have to build quietly, consistently, intentionally. And when the world wonders how you're still standing, you'll smile, not because they're watching, but because you know who you are now. That's a mind so strong. It doesn't just scare people, it changes you forever.